Good morning, folks. It's about 50 degrees today here in Nebraska. Overcast, kind of drizzly. What better day to do a shop project? And we're going to get one done. We're going to do a want to do today instead of a have to do. So stick around. It's going to be fun. So a while back at an auction, if you were with us, we got these big 100-gallon propane tanks for $1 each because we had a project in mind that we wanted to use these for. And one of you guessed correctly. We are going to make a giant wind chime with these huge tanks. It's going to be fun. So we've already got a start on this a while back, and I was just taking the tops off, so we didn't bother to video. But the tops that come in these are a booger to get out. These valves here, they are in there good. 3/4 inch pipe on those. But man, are they in there. What we had to do is we had to strap 3 of these tanks together so we could keep them from rolling around. And then I laid them down on the ground and got one of my really big wrenches and about a 5-foot piece of pipe. And that's what it took to break those loose. And it was still quite a chore. The tank still wanted to spin a little bit. But we got them out. So we're at the next point where we need to cut the bottoms off of these propane tanks. And I know that's scary for some folks, but there's a process you can do to make it safe. We've cut lots of propane tanks in the past. So what we're going to do is we have a bottle of Dawn dishwashing liquid here, and we're going to squirt a little bit in each one of these tanks. I've also got out of my stash a 3/4 inch nipple and a valve here that we're going to use in the process. But we're going to fill these tanks and rinse these tanks out. They haven't had tops on them for quite some time, and they were even open before we took the tops off. And if there was any propane left in it, which I don't think there was because the valves were open, propane boils at a really high temperature, like 30 degrees or something like that. So any propane left in there would have gone to a gas already and left. But propane is heavier than air, so there may be a chance that there may be some lingering down in the bottom. But again, the chance of that's very slim. But just as a precaution, we're going to put the Dawn dishwashing soap in here. We'll fill these with water to take up all of that space in there so there's no open areas for fumes to accumulate and possibly cause any kind of explosion. Because it's the empty cylinders with fumes left that are dangerous. Like if these were full of gasoline, if it was full to the top with gasoline, you could weld on this and do whatever because there's no place for the fumes to accumulate. You'd get a little flame burning out of here on the top, but it's not going to explode because there's no air-gas mixture in there that would cause it to. So that's kind of the principle on how the gas works. As long as there's not an open space full of gas-air mixture, you're not going to have an explosion. So I need to go get the tractor out. Sorry for talking so long. We're going to get the pallet forks put on the tractor so we can maneuver these things around a little bit, and we'll get these babies cleaned out. I think we can get by with the bucket here instead of going putting the pallet forks on. We'll give it a try with one tank. So we need to get the hose over here. I'll take our nipple out of here. We'll get things going. Got the soap and all those. Now we're putting the last bit into this one here. Now for the water, we're going to create as much agitation in here as we can. So we're going to straight stream right into the bottom of that. And as soon as this thing fills up with bubbles, we can get her sealed off. Those bubbles will take the place of the open space in there, just like firefighting foam does. So it won't allow a big gas pocket. Alright, we're full, so we'll get our valve screwed on here. Then we're going to use our cutoff wheel. We'll cut a pretty good square hole here in the end first, and then we'll start cutting around the outside right above this ring. Okay, we just cut a real quick square hole in the end. You can see we're full of bubbles in there. So we're going to start cutting around this ring, and we'll just kind of turn it as we go. All right, got our end successfully cut off. We'll get this rolled out of the bucket. We'll dump all the water out of it. And we just got 4 more to go. All right, we got them all cut off. So I'm going to take the hose. We're going to wash them all down real good. And then we can do some work in the shop, get out of this misty weather here. Okay, we got the tanks in the shop after we cleaned them all off. This is about the separation we want here. We've got about the same distance and same across. We've measured everything. So the first thing we're going to make is the holder that holds all these in place. So we'll get a good circumference measurement here. We'll lay it out on our welding table. We'll figure out what our angles are and the lengths to get out here to the center, and then we'll get that cut. Okay, we've got some leftover 2-inch square tubing that we're going to use for our carrier. So we need an angle because none of these are going to come in at a right angle. If we had 4, we could do it where we could just go straight across. But because we have 5, we're going to have to come into the center and nothing's going to be straight across. So what we're going to do is we had to find the angle for 5 there. So I drew a circle. Any size circle will do. And then we measured the diameter of that circle. We times it times pi 3.14. And that gives us the circumference, which is the length all the way around of our circle. And then we divide that by 5 because we have 5 pieces there. So we measured that amount. I think it came out to 13 and 13/16 for the size circle that we had. But again, size circle doesn't matter. So we made those marks around, and then we found the center. So we lined up with those marks with our 2-inch ruler representing our 2-inch tubing, put that on center, put that on the mark, and then we drew lines. So we did that 5 times around. You can't hardly see it here on the table. But to get our angle, I drew here on the yardstick so you could see that's what our angle is going to be for each end of our tubing. And then we need to be 16 from that long point to just a cross cut here. So we're going to need 5 of those pieces, and then they'll join in the middle and then just be welded all the way around on this point here. So let's get those cut. We'll get our cold saw down here. We'll cut them all 16 first, and then we'll come back and we'll set the saw at this angle. We'll just cut to the center, going both ways. So of course my gauge here doesn't go sharp enough. So what I did is I just backed off our clamp here. So if we hold this against the clamp like this and line it up with the blade, that's about the angle we need. So we'll just start at the center and cut that ear off while we hold it. So that looks about right. So we'll just do that 4 more times. So now what we want to do on the side here, this would be like the top, is we want to cap the ends. So to cap these ends, we're just going to cut a piece out like this on both sides. And then we'll just bend this side down. It's not going to come all the way to the end, but we can fill that with the MIG welder. If we wanted it to come all the way to the end, this is 2 1/4 from here to here. We would need to go back here 2 1/4 and cut, and then we would lose part of this here. So no biggie. So what I did, instead of having to fill that gap, I just back cut what was left right here, knocked that little corner off. And then this piece that was here, I just bent it over to match. So that's the profile will be right there. It'll be fine. I'll still have plenty of room. So now we just got a bunch of welding to do. Give you an idea how this is going to work. It'll all come together like this. Just like that. And then we'll put a loop on top to hold the whole thing up. Put a loop on the bottom for the lack of a better term, our ding-a-ling down there. And then we'll put loops on each end to hold up our tank right here in the middle. All right, got it all welded up. Just need to clean it up just a little bit. Don't have to worry too much about it. So we'll throw it over here on the tanks and see what it looks like. All right, that's going to work. You can see this tank here is a little bit shorter, but a couple of them are going to even be shorter than that once we get going here. So we'll go ahead and weld the loops up underneath the end. We'll weld the loop top and bottom on this. We might put a big washer right there and gusset all that up a little better. So we'll do that real quick. Got all of our eyes welded on. We went with a little beefier one on top because it's going to hold all of them. And then the ones on the bottom are a little smaller. And then the one for the ding-a-ling, just a half a loop there. I keep little short pieces of chain around just for this purpose. So now let's address these bottles. So originally I was just going to get an eye bolt put down through there and then spin a nut on the bottom, but you can imagine reaching up into this tank would be difficult. So I started thinking this morning, I've got this 3/4 pipe fitting here. Why not just get a 3/4 pipe nipple and then we'll weld a hoop or a chain link or something on here to hold our tank up. So I think that'll work awesome. So we'll get 5 of these made. So here's my idea. I had these big long eye bolts that I was originally going to use, but I think I'm going to use them again. I'm going to weld, I got a nut on them that's going to weld to the top of this nipple. And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this up and open this up just enough so it will hook on our eyes here. So they'll be easy to take on and off. So I'm interested to see how it will ring with that attached hard like that. So I'm going to tack one on real good, and we'll lift it up with our hoist, and we'll see how it rings. All right, we got it suspended. Let's tap it with a hammer. Got a ring to it. So we'll go ahead and get all these welded up. Got all of our hangers welded on. Now we're going to use the torch, heat our loop up, bend that out just a little bit. Well, I'm going to try to pick this thing up. This thing picks up half a ton at this length, so I think we're going to be okay. I think we're less than 1,000 pounds here. So we'll get these hooked on and try to get them off the ground. All right, they're all hanging. Sweet. Let's see what they sound like. All right, let's go one by one here. That one's got a real good ring. It's a heavier tank. That's pretty much the same tone. That's got its own tone. That one's kind of dead. Wonder why that one's dead. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut about 4 inches off of this one. See if we can get a different tone. Well, I found out why this one's dead. It's got a bunch of mud in there, so that's going to deaden the sound. So let's wash that out real quick, and then we'll try it again to see if it gives us a different tone. Well, that thing had a ton of mud in it. Dirt in it must have got in it somehow. When I bought these, they were laying on their side, so whatever water or whatever got in there, it solidified it on one side of the tank. So it should ring now, so let's see if there's a different tone, and if it's the same as one of the other ones, we'll go ahead and cut off some of it anyway. Got it hung back up here. Now all these tanks are different with the exception of these two. These two are identical tanks. So you can hear they're kind of the same. So I'll take this one back off. We'll cut 4 inches of it off and see if it's any different. Using our pipe fitter's wrap to get a good line around there. It's 4 inches wide, so we just flushed it on the end. Let's get that cut. All right, got it cut. If you noticed, it still sounded a little dead. Well, there was more mud in here. So we got to hose some more of that out. It should ring a lot better now. And it should ring a different tone now that we've cut 4 inches off. Okay, one more time. So here's the one that didn't get cut. Here's the one we just cut. So you can tell it's ringing better now too. So now let's go around the row. this one sounds a little dead too. We should probably hose out the inside of that one. But I'm going to turn this thing around, and I think what I might do, if you see it's hanging a little lopsided, I'm going to trade these two tanks because this one is heavier, put it over here, and that should level things out. So that pretty much leveled it out, so that worked out good. So this is the chain that it's going to hang with, but I need to make the dinger bell, the ding-a-ling, put that in there before we take this thing out and hang it where it's going to go. So we just hung it with a little S-hook, and then we crimped it so it can't come off. So let's figure out a ding-a-ling. I just took a heavy bridge washer, put an eye bolt through it, tightened it down real tight, and then just welded one of these quick links on it. So we can attach that to the chain once we get it the right length, and then the other side will attach the little wind vane that makes it move around. Okay, we officially have a ding-a-ling. Might have to wash this one out too. Now for the wind catcher, we need something light. So I had this piece of galvanized sheet metal laying around. We'll cut like a little flap out of it, drill a hole in it to put the link through, and that should do it. There's our wind catcher and our dinger. So let's go hang this thing. Looks pretty cool. I love it. Well, that was a fun project on a drizzly day. I'm really going to enjoy that thing. Kelly said she didn't want it anywhere near the house because she didn't want it keeping her up. So we put it way out the other side of the garden from the big old apple tree. So we'll see how that goes. But I really enjoyed it today. I hope you enjoyed it too. Come back and see us here real soon. We got more shop projects, garden projects, just about everything you'd want to see here at Mark Kelly Farm. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy. Love you guys. Come back and see us real soon.